We've all heard the stories, the US government fighting for civil rights, passing laws, and promising equality. These stories are often highlighted in the media, showcasing the progress and the victories that have been achieved over the years. From the Civil Rights Act of 1964 to the more recent movements advocating for LGBTQ+ rights, the narrative is one of continuous improvement and justice. But what if I told you this is only part of the story? What if the focus on civil rights is a strategic move to divert attention from deeper, more pervasive issues? What if this focus on civil rights is just a distraction, a loophole to hide the fact that the US is failing to address human rights violations affecting all citizens, particularly those struggling with poverty and inequality? The reality is that while civil rights are crucial, they are only one piece of a much larger puzzle. Here's what they don't want you to see. The systemic issues that plague our society go far beyond the scope of civil rights. They touch on fundamental human rights that are being neglected. Under Title VIII of U.S. law, immigrants, particularly asylum seekers and refugees, can receive financial assistance, including food vouchers, housing support, and monthly payments to help them resettle in the U.S. These benefits are designed to provide a safety net for those fleeing dire circumstances. These benefits are part of humanitarian efforts to help those fleeing hardship. It's a noble cause, and one that aligns with the values of compassion and support for those in need. But here's the question. What about American citizens? What about those who are born and raised in this country, yet find themselves in equally desperate situations? Whether you live in a rural town, an inner-city neighborhood, or an area devastated by natural disasters, you might be receiving far less support. The disparity in aid is glaring and raises serious questions about the priorities of our government. Just recently, Hurricane Helene victims were offered only $750 in relief from the federal government. This amount is a mere pittance compared to the actual needs of those affected by such devastating events. Meanwhile, billions of dollars are being sent overseas to Ukraine and Israel. These large financial transactions are often justified as necessary for international stability and humanitarian aid. How can the government justify these massive disparities? How can they explain the vast amounts of money sent abroad while neglecting the urgent needs of their own citizens? Why are billions being spent abroad while Americans struggle at home? The answer lies in the complex web of political and economic interests that often prioritize international agendas over domestic welfare. We're told to celebrate civil rights victories, yet so many citizens continue to face housing instability, healthcare crises, and economic inequality. These issues are not just isolated incidents. They are systemic problems that require comprehensive solutions. These aren't just civil rights issues, they're human rights issues. The right to adequate housing, healthcare, and a decent standard of living are fundamental human rights that are being overlooked. And by refusing to call them that, the U.S. avoids the international pressure it would face for failing its own people. The international community often holds countries accountable for human rights violations, but by framing these issues as civil rights problems, the U.S. sidesteps this scrutiny. And here's something even more disturbing. Unlike immigrants seeking asylum from hardship, U.S. citizens can't go anywhere for relief. They are trapped in a system that fails to provide for their basic needs. There's no place to seek asylum from the systemic neglect happening within our own borders. Why? Because the issues are deeply rooted in the very fabric of our society. Because the government frames these struggles as civil issues, implying that they can be solved with incremental reforms, while the real problems go deeper. The narrative of civil rights progress is used to mask the underlying human rights violations. The U.S. is using this civil rights loophole to avoid addressing the human rights violations happening right here at home. This tactic allows them to maintain a facade of progress while ignoring the systemic issues that continue to harm millions of Americans. From poverty to inadequate disaster relief, the neglect affects all of us. It's a widespread issue that transcends race, gender, and geography. It's time to wake up and demand more. Why are American citizens left behind while billions are sent overseas? The time has come for us to hold our government accountable and demand that they prioritize the needs of their own people. This is Real Cult Theory. Subscribe for more, stay informed, stay engaged, and let's work together to bring about real change.